Welcome to Resilient Minds in Relationships, the podcast dedicated to exploring connection, healing, and growth.
Hosted by Kathryn Fayle, licensed professional counselor, national certified counselor, and certified sex addiction therapist. This podcast dives into real conversations about strengthening relationships, navigating challenges, and building emotional resilience.
Kathryn and her team provide expert insights and practical tools to help you improve communication, heal from betrayal, and deepen intimacy.
Tune in each week to gain powerful strategies, fresh perspectives, and actionable steps to create the thriving relationship you deserve.
Start your journey towards stronger, healthier connections today.
Hey there. If you're listening to this right now, my guess is that you or someone you love is trying to survive the fallout of an affair or the discovery of their partner's sexual addiction. And I just want to start by saying, I see you and I know how heavy this feels. Maybe you're sitting in your car trying to process what just happened. Maybe you're lying awake at night wondering if this pain will ever stop. Or maybe you're on the other side of this, carrying the guilt and the shame, and you don't know if you'll ever be trusted again. Wherever you are right now, I want you to know, healing is possible, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm Kathryn Fayle, a licensed professional counselor and certified sex addictions therapist, and in this episode, we're going to get really honest about what happens to a couple when betrayal enters the picture, the emotional reality for both partners, yes, you heard me right, both partners, the deep pain for the betrayed, and the overwhelming shame for the betrayer, and we're going to talk about how these two collide. We're going to talk about how to begin healing, whether you're the one who's been hurt or the one who caused the hurt. And most importantly, we're going to talk about what's on the other side of this work if you both decide to fight for healing. So let's dive in. So let's start by talking about what really happens to both partners emotionally in the aftermath of the discovery. Because betrayal doesn't just impact the relationship, it hits both people in deep personal ways. For the betrayed partner, this is trauma. If you've been betrayed, you're likely experiencing some or even all of these symptoms. Shock and disbelief. You can't process that this is your reality. Obsessive thoughts. Your brain keeps replaying details trying to make sense of what happened. Panic and anxiety. Your body is in high alert like you're constantly bracing for another blow. Physically, you could be experiencing nausea, headaches, insomnia, and even body aches from stress. You could be experiencing emotional flooding, where you swing from rage to sadness to numbness, and sometimes all in one day. You could be experiencing a loss of self-worth. You wonder, why wasn't I enough? How could I have missed this? Was any of this real? And the last one is so important to talk about. Infidelity shatters reality for the betrayed partner. And it's so important to know right here is where you learn the most important piece of information I'm ever going to provide you. As the betrayed partner, no matter what your brain is attempting to say, the truth will always be, you did not cause this. Again, you did not cause this. Your partner's betrayal was their choice. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It wasn't because you failed. It wasn't because of something you did or didn't do. Betrayal happens because of the betrayer's own wounds, decisions, or even lack of boundaries. Not because you weren't worthy of love, worthy of respect, or worthy of commitment. I need you to let that sink in. Because if you don't, you will spend months, maybe even years, blaming yourself for someone else's actions. For the betraying partner, understand this is shame. Now, if you're the one who had the affair or you struggle with sexual addiction, your emotions are different, but just as intense. Here's some things you could be experiencing. Deep shame. Not just regret, but a core feeling of I'm a terrible person. You could be fearing losing your partner, wondering if anything you do will ever be enough. You could be experiencing defensiveness or even minimization, trying to control the damage by explaining or justifying. You could be experiencing guilt and self-loathing, beating yourself up but feeling paralyzed to actual change. And last, you could be experiencing helplessness, feeling like no matter what, you'll always be seen as the bad guy. And here's where it gets tricky. Shame makes people withdraw. Instead of leaning in and facing the pain, shame tempts the betraying partner to shut down, avoid, or defend. The worst thing about the betraying partner withdrawing from their betrayed partner is that it causes the one who's been betrayed to feel like it's not important, to feel like it doesn't matter, to fear that you'll never be different. And this is why later we're going to spend some time talking about how we move towards our partner and not away from them, even when we're experiencing moments of heavy shame. If you're the one carrying the shame of betrayal, this is where you have to make a pivotal choice. You can either let shame keep you stuck in self-protection, or you can lean into the discomfort and start rebuilding. So what it looks like in real life is that you have to face the truth, even when it's hard. You have to stay present for your partner's pain. You have to separate your feelings from your actions. You must commit to full transparency. And you show change through action, not just words. And you get support. Shame only has power when it's hidden. When you choose truth, connection, and accountability, you create the possibility of healing. It won't happen overnight, but if you commit to walking through your shame instead of running from it, you can become the safe, trustworthy partner that your spouse needs you to be. Let's talk about why betrayal happens. Because if you're the betrayed partner, I know you're asking yourself things like, why did they do this? What was I missing? How could I be so stupid? Why didn't I see this? How could they throw everything away? And on the other side, if you're the one who betrayed, you might be asking yourself, why did I let it go this far? What was I looking for? Am I just that broken? So let's be clear, and I want to be very clear right now. Affairs and sexual addiction don't just happen. They aren't random, they aren't mistakes, and they aren't just occurrences because there's something missing from a relationship. There's always a story behind the choices. But the story is not an excuse. There was never a good reason for betrayal. And if you're the one who caused the harm, your job isn't to justify what happened. Your job is to understand it so you can make sure it never happens again. People like to believe that affairs happen because someone is unhappy in their relationships. But that's not always true. People in great relationships still cheat. People who love their partners still cheat. So what's really happening? Here are some of the most common underlying patterns that I see. Poor boundaries. Some affairs happen gradually. What starts as an innocent friendship, work relationship, or even a casual interaction crosses a line, sometimes before the betrayer even realizes it. Flirty banter, deep emotional conversation, keeping secrets from their partner. It's a slow erosion of trust until it turns into something more. Self-sabotage. Some people unconsciously destroy the things they care about the most, especially if deep down they don't feel worthy of love. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, abusive, or neglectful, you might believe, even subconsciously, that love doesn't last, so you do something to prove yourself right. Other things are like impulsivity or avoidance. Sometimes an affair is less about an attraction to someone and more about escaping something internal. Stress, depression, anxiety, a sense of failure. Someone seeking an affair might not be running from their relationship, they're running from themselves. So, affairs and sex addiction, they can overlap, but I need you to know they're not always the same thing. Sexual addiction isn't about one bad decision. It's about a cycle of compulsive behaviors that usually started way before the relationship. Many people with sex or pornography addiction were introduced to it at a young age, often during a time of emotional distress or loneliness. It became a coping mechanism, a way to manage stress, anxiety, trauma, or even boredom. And over time, it escalated, requiring more risk, more secrecy, or intensity to get the same emotional escape. Unlike an affair, where there's usually a single person involved, sexual addiction isn't about the other people at all. It's about the cycle, the secrecy, the ritual of it, and the chase. And here's what's really important to understand. Sexual addiction doesn't mean someone doesn't love their partner, but it does mean that they have a destructive and a self-serving pattern that must be addressed. No matter the cause, betrayal is a choice. Now, if you're the betrayed partner, I want you to hear this loud and clear. This did not happen because you weren't enough. This did not happen because of something you did or didn't do. This didn't happen because of your partner's unresolved pain, lack of boundaries, or unhealthy coping mechanisms. And if you're the betrayer, I need you to hear this. You didn't just slip up. You made a choice. Your past, your stress, your wounds, they explain, but they don't excuse. If you want to heal, you have to own your actions fully and completely. Because real healing begins with radical honesty. You cannot move forward without understanding why this happened. And more importantly, you cannot rebuild trust until you commit to making sure it'll never happen again. So let's take a deep breath. And again, remember that healing is possible, but it takes hard, intentional work. I know this is where most people feel stuck. If you're the betrayed partner, your train of thought may be, how do I ever trust again? How do I ever stop seeing them as the person who hurt me? And this one I hear a lot. Will I ever feel safe again with them? If you're the betraying partner, you might be asking, what do I do now? How do I help them know I don't want to do this? How do I prove I'm changing even when they don't believe me? And I hear this one a lot. Will they ever look at me the same way again? I need you both to hear this. Healing doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. And that choice has to be made over and over and over and over again. So this is the first and most crucial step. You cannot heal while the wound is still being reopened. For the betrayer, this means ending all deception. No more half-truths, omissions, or secrets. You have to commit to full honesty. Honesty isn't just about answering questions. It's about becoming transparent in your actions. If there's a sexual addiction, start a recovery program. This means working with an ABSATS-trained coach or a CSAT therapist, someone trained specifically in betrayal trauma and sexual addiction recovery. If there is any ongoing betrayal, whether it's hidden social media accounts, lingering communication with a affair partner, or continued pornography use, healing cannot and it will not begin. You have to take responsibility. No more minimizing, justifying, or deflecting. No saying, it wasn't that bad, I didn't mean to hurt you, it didn't mean anything to me, and no shifting blame on your partner or on the condition of the relationship. Taking responsibility means you own everything, not just your actions, but also the pain they caused. And here's where formal disclosure comes in. Disclosure is where so many couples get this wrong. Betrayed partners will often ask me, why do I need a formal disclosure? Haven't I been through it enough? I don't want all the details. I don't want that image in my mind. And betrayers often think, if I tell them everything, they'll leave me. So here's what the research tells us. Proper disclosure leads to a higher success rate in long-term healing. And it's important to understand this. Disclosure is so much more than just telling the truth. I know that can be tricky because we all get stuck on the word disclosure. But I want you to understand that it is a structured, guided process that allows the betrayed partner to receive a full, honest understanding of what happened without drip-fed disclosures that can cause even more trauma. In a way, instead of looking at the word disclosure as reading out the dirty laundry list, we want disclosure to be a final word for the beginning of the couple's work, meaning we are going to disclose in one occurrence in a structured office of what has happened, not disclosing here, disclosing there, disclosing here, disclosing there. As I recently said, a drip-fed disclosure. And this is why that's so important. When you have a proper disclosure, it stops the cycle of discovery. Again, instead of disclosing here, disclosing there, disclosing here, it stops that cycle. One of the most painful parts of betrayal trauma is finding out new information over time. Proper disclosure stops this from happening. We want to make sure that our partners know that you are all in for the truth, not 3 months down the road giving trickle truth and restarting the clock all over again on their capacity to believe you, to heal, or even want to stay in the relationship. Disclosure rebuilds trust through being honest. When done with a trained professional, disclosure shows the betrayed partner that the betrayer is fully owning their actions. It allows the betrayed partner to then make an informed choice. Without full truth, how can they decide if they want to stay, separate, or work on rebuilding? It also validates the betrayed partner's reality. Gaslighting, partial truths, and even hidden details leave the betrayed partner feeling crazy. A full disclosure affirms that they weren't imagining things. If you're going to go through a disclosure, please hear me when I say this. It needs to be done with an APSATS trained coach or a CSAT therapist. Why? Well, because disclosure done incorrectly will always cause more harm. It needs to be planned and guided. Dumping out all the information on your partner without support can be re-traumatizing. It needs to include a restitution letter. This is where the betrayer not only discloses what happened, but also takes on full ownership and expresses remorse in a way that helps the betrayed partner feel heard. It needs to be followed by structured healing steps. Disclosure is not the finish line. It is the starting point for rebuilding trust. Most of the time I tell the couples that come to work with me, we don't even get to start couples counseling until we've gone through the disclosure process. If you've been betrayed, please remember that your healing matters just as much as the relationship's healing. And what I mean by that is you have to prioritize your own recovery. Whether or not you stay in the relationship, you need support through therapy, a support group, or trauma-informed coaching. Understanding your betrayal trauma, your responses, whether it's panic, rage, hypervigilance, or shutting down, understanding these are all normal trauma responses. You're not overreacting. You need to allow yourself to grieve. This wasn't just about the betrayal itself. It was about the losing the version of the relationship you thought was real. You may go through cycles of anger, sadness, numbness, and even moments of hope. And that's okay. That's normal. Your healing is not about getting over it. It's not about learning to never talk about it again. It's about learning how to move through it. If you and your partner are going to make the decision to join forces with healing, you have to understand that you need to commit to the long, messy process of doing so. The truth is, healing doesn't happen in a straight line. There will be good days when you feel close again. There will be hard days when you feel like it's impossible. And then there'll be moments of hope. And yes, sometimes there'll be moments of doubt. But when both people commit to doing the work, when the betrayer commits to a full transparency and change, and the betrayed partner allows themselves to commit to their own healing, a relationship can become stronger, more honest, and more connected before. This is a question I get all the time with couples. And I always have to remind them, the process of healing is letting go of what we thought was and developing what can be. I have seen more couples come through the fire more refined, more fortified, and more structured, more intimate, more close than they've ever been before. It's work, but it's beautiful work when it takes place. You have to remember, it won't look like the relationship you had before. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, as I previously mentioned. I've seen couples come through this in ways I never thought, and in ways that are completely honorable to watch. But that's because when healing is done right, you're not just rebuilding the old relationship. You're creating a new one that is fortified and ready to move forward with more transparency, more emotional availability, and more intimacy than ever before. So let's talk about the end game, because right now, I know many of you are asking, can we really come back from this? Will I ever trust again? Will I ever feel close to them? And can I ever forgive? And if you're the one who caused the betrayal, you might be wondering, will they ever look at me without pain? Can I ever be the person they deserve? Will I always be defined by this mistake? So let's be real again, guys. This is hard. Healing from betrayal isn't just about surviving. It's about choosing to fight for something new. But if you're willing to do the work, you won't just, quote, fix the relationship. You'll create something deeper, more honest, and more connected than you ever had before. But before we get into what's possible, we got to talk about the pain, because you can't heal what you don't fully acknowledge. I know previously I spent a little bit of time talking about the pain of betrayal, But what I want to focus on for a minute is the understanding that you probably feel like you've lost everything in a single moment. You lost the relationship you thought you had, you lost the future you were building, you lost the safety you felt with your partner, and worst of all, you lost trust in yourself. Because betrayal trauma doesn't make you question your partner, it makes you question your own reality. I hear a lot with my betrayed partners, how did I not see this? Was I naive? Did I ignore the signs? How do I trust myself to see the truth now? It's exhausting to live in a cycle of doubt and pain. And this is why so many betrayed partners feel stuck, not just in anger or grief, but in a constant state of fear. For the betrayer, here again, you're living in shame. You feel like you're never going to be enough to fix this. You see your partner's pain and you hate yourself for causing it. You feel like no matter what you do, you can't win. You want to help, but everything you say seems to make it worse. And deep down, you might even feel like, what's the point of trying? They're never going to trust me anyways. And here's where the agitation happens. If you stay in this cycle of pain, you will not move forward. The betrayed partner will stay in hypervigilance, waiting for a next betrayal. The betrayer will stay stuck in shame, too afraid to show up fully. And then the relationship becomes two people in survival mode, not people healing together. So how do we break the cycle? The solution isn't just time. We like to say in the world of recovery, consistency over time. You don't just get over betrayal. You don't just move on. You don't just forget. You don't just stop talking about it. Healing is always going to be about what you choose to do with the pain. And what that looks like for the betrayed partner is you're going to learn how to rebuild trust. Not in your partner first, but actually in yourself. You're going to allow yourself to grieve fully, without guilt, without pressure to rush to forgiveness. You're going to be grieving the loss of that relationship. You're going to learn to set boundaries that make you feel safe, even when they feel uncomfortable at first. And you're going to give yourself permission to heal at your own pace. Because healing is not about making them feel better. It's about reclaiming your sense of self. For the betrayer, you're going to stop focusing on being forgiven and start focusing on being trustworthy. You're going to start leaning into your partner's pain instead of running from it. You're going to stop getting defensive and start getting curious about how they feel. You're going to commit to full transparency because real trust is built in the small, everyday moments. Because again, healing is not about earning back love. It's about becoming someone worthy of trust again. So what's possible if you two do this work? Here's the truth most people don't tell you. The relationship you had before is gone. You are working on building something new. But again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Because the couples who do this work, they don't just go back to what they had before, as I said earlier. They build something entirely new. Here's what's possible when you do this work together. Trust that isn't just assumed, but actively built every day. Intimacy that isn't just physical, but emotionally and deeply connected as well. Communication that is honest, vulnerable, and without hidden agendas. And a relationship where both partners feel fully seen, heard, and valued. And yes, forgiveness becomes possible. Not because you forced it, not because you're ignoring the past, and not because you rushed through the pain, but because true healing creates space for real forgiveness. The truth is, guys, and this is a tough one, some couples don't make it through this. Not because healing isn't possible, but because one or both partners stop doing the work. If you're the betrayed partner, healing happens when you allow yourself to feel the pain without letting it define you. If you're the betrayer, healing happens when you stop trying to make your partner move on and instead show up fully again and again and again and again. And when you both commit to the process, when you both refuse to give up, you create the possibility of something new. Again, not the relationship you had before, but something deeper and something stronger. A relationship built on truth, honesty, and an unshakable intimacy. That's what you earn when you both do the work. At Resilient Mind Counseling and Coaching, my team and I specialize in helping couples and individuals navigate betrayal trauma, affair recovery, sexual addiction, and rebuilding trust. If you're ready to take the next step, please visit our website at www.resilient-minded.com to learn more. You can book a consultation with me or one of the members of my team. You can follow us on Instagram at resilient_mind_counseling for more insights and support. And I want you to remember this. You are not alone. We are here and we're ready to help. Thanks for spending time with me today. I know this can be a very challenging conversation. But remember, healing is possible, change can occur, and the difference you receive from the work you do together can be something more beautiful than you've ever expected. Until next time, be kind to yourself and kind to one another.